the structure using the 45-minute time frame, because most of the people think that it is easy for everyone to mark the structure in the 15-minute or a 4-hour time frame, because those are the most used time frames by all the traders. And in this video we will take something different time frame that almost no one have used, so that we can prove that the nature of the market is fractal. So first of all, you can move to the 45-minute chart and you can move to the any highest or lowest point while marking the structure. Like from this point we can start marking the structure. Now first of all, as you can see that market was continuously moving to the upside, and at this point it swept the liquidity of the previous high. So after the sweep of previous high, we can see that market has shifted to the downside at this point. So if we think that this is the change of character, now after the change of character we need inducement before selling. So this point is the inducement, and whenever market break the first high, at that time our lower low confirms, because lower lows or lower highs are not random. Whenever market take the liquidity and then move to the downside, that is the real break of structure and that is the real lower low. Like at this point, this was the pullback which has created the new low. Market take that pullback liquidity, so our lower low confirms. Now why this is the lower low? Because market has taken a liquidity by moving from this point. Now this point is the lower low, and with the break of same lower low at this point, this is our real break of structure. Now when the break of structure confirms the highest point after taking out the liquidity, or you can say the inducement, and the between the break of structure is your new higher low, which is at this point. And again we have to follow the same rule. Like market is dropping to the downside, so when market is dropping to the downside, it doesn't mean that this is the break of structure. Why this is not the break of structure in 45-minute time frame? Because market hasn't taken the liquidity in this leg. Like there is no liquidity which market has taken, so we cannot say that this is the real lower low or this is the real break of structure. So again we have to wait for the market to take at least the liquidity of one pullback. And if you think these are the pullbacks, then you are wrong. Yes, there are some pullbacks, but these are not the valid pullbacks at those points. So now when market has taken the liquidity of the previous pullback at this point, this is the high which market has taken the liquidity. So when market took out the liquidity of the previous pullback, market has taken out the liquidity at this point, so this becomes our next lower low. And with the break of the same lower low, as you can see that in the first attempt it was just a liquidity sweep, so we cannot think or assume that this is the break of structure, because this is just the liquidity sweep, and market may have turned bullish if it closed above this point, but in the next leg market closed below this point, so this is our break of structure confirmed. So after the break of structure confirmation, this is the highest point, which is our new higher low, and again market continue to drop to the downside. Now which is our next pullback? This point is the next pullback, and market has taken the liquidity. So this is our liquidity taken by the market, and the same liquidity taken confirms our new lower low, which is at this point. And as you can see that at this point market hasn't closed the candle below this point, so this is the liquidity sweep. And when market sweep the liquidity of the previous major lows and close above the first pullback, then there are higher chances that market now reverse to the upside for the longer term. So you can assume that this is the change of character, because market has shifted to the upside and has taken the liquidity of the previous low. Now again market moved to the upside. Now when you can buy, when market take out the liquidity of the first pullback at least, and as you can see that there is a no valid pullback that market has taken the liquidity. Now at this point market has taken the liquidity of the valid pullback, so this is the liquidity sweep, or when market take out the liquidity, your higher high confirms, and with the break of the same higher high, which is at this point, this becomes the break of structure. And after the break of structure, the deepest point becomes your new higher low. And again in the same way we will wait for the market to take out the valid pullback liquidity. This was the valid pullback, market took out the liquidity of this point, so this point becomes our new high. And again when market break above the same high, this becomes the break of structure. And after the break of structure, our new lower high confirms, which is at this point. And again in the same way market take out the liquidity of the first pullback, which is at this point, Now when market took out the liquidity at this point, our higher high confirms, which is at this point. But now instead of moving to the upside, market has moved to the downside and break below the previous major higher low, which is at this point. Now this becomes our change of character. That market has shifted to the downside in the 45-minute time frame. Now when you can sell? You can sell when market take out the liquidity. So where is the liquidity? This is the first pullback which market has taken out. Now after taking out the liquidity, this becomes the low, and with the break of the same low, which is at this point. In the first attempt it was just a liquidity sweep, but then market closed the candle below this point. This becomes the breakout structure, and after the breakout structure, this point becomes our new lower high. And again, this is the next pullback. Market took out the liquidity at this point, and after the liquidity is taken, market doesn't move to the downside, but it moved to the upside. But when market took out the liquidity, this point becomes the low. And when market close above this recent major high, which was at this point, this becomes our change of character. That market has shifted to the upside. Now when we can look for a buy, when market took out the liquidity of at least first pullback. This is a valid first pullback. Market took out the liquidity of this point. So where was the high? This was a pullback which has taken out the liquidity of the first pullback. So this becomes the high. And again, when market break above this point, this becomes the breakout structure at this point, and the deepest point becomes our new low. And again in the same way, this is the liquidity point. At this point, market took out the liquidity, so our higher high confirms at this point, and again market moved to the downside and create the breakout structure at this point. So this point becomes the breakout structure, and the deepest point becomes our new higher low. And again in the same way, market continue to move to the upside and took out the liquidity of this pullback. Liquidity hasn't been taken by the market, so this is not our correct pullback, but at this point this was a valid pullback which market has taken out the liquidity. So our higher high confirms at this point, and with the break of the same higher high, our lower high confirms at this point, because this was the deepest point after taking out the liquidity and the confirmation of breakout structure. And in the same way, market continued to move to the upside, and this was the next point which market has taken the liquidity of. Like at this point, this was the first pullback. Market took out the liquidity, so this point become the high. And now again market was in the ranging, and when market tap on this unmitigated PY or order block or order flow and then move to the upside, so this point become the breakout structure. And after the breakout structure, our lower low confirms. And if you zoom out, and you can see that this was a structure in the 45-minute time frame that you can see. And in this way you can mark the structure properly, and you can use this method to mark the structure in any time frame and in any pair. So if you want to know more about this structure marking, you can join our personal classes, and also we will teach there other methods of trading, like other models that you can use using the same concepts. Now thanks for watching this video.